All right. We are set.
Okay. Oh, I got a big old thing on my screen. Do you see that in my screen? It says continue or...
I see moving challenges.
Okay. Well, then I'll just, hopefully that goes away.
Oh, you need to maybe have to acknowledge that you're being recorded.
Yeah, no, I did. It finally, my cursor stopped working. So, all right. So, as some of you might know, I moved 18 months ago from Cedar City. It was a decision that I made in, let me think, how many days? About 5 days. Me and my wife had been thinking about moving, and I had a couple of spots that I said I'd move to. One of them being the greater Yellowstone area, because I spent before this, I would spend anywhere from 2 months to 2.5 months here in this area doing photography every year in the park. And so I really wanted to live here. So I made that we happened to find a house, we bought it and started moving 5 days later. And I took most of that last summer to move because I had to move everything physically. And I had to move all my photography stuff, of course. And I have a 44-inch printer and a small Canon Pro 300 printer, and then my computers and other printers. And I have a huge office now here in the basement, which is probably the best part about the move. But so the reasons for me moving is I really needed a change. I was getting pretty stagnant sitting in southern Utah. So I thought, I was focusing more, my photography was more about wildlife. And I thought I got to do something to change it up because there wasn't the wildlife opportunities in southern Utah that I now have. And you won't see any of those little birds in southern Utah. They're only up here. That's a juvenile great gray owl, for those that don't know. And I just, honestly, I had 7.5 acres and we were trying to downsize. So our current house is about 800 square feet smaller than our old house. We went from 7.5 acres of land to now we only have 1,800 square feet of land in the woods. So it was rather drastic. And I got a whole bunch of new things to photograph. And one of my other reasons I moved here is I was hoping that I could open a gallery here. Although that is proving to be a little bit harder than I originally had hoped. So some of the challenges that have happened over this last year, I was talking beforehand that I've taken over 50,000 pictures this year that are sitting in my Lightroom catalog. I've probably deleted that many also. But there's a lot of challenges with living in a park that we had a visitation this year of 4.5 million to date here in the park. So that creates some problems as a photographer. Number one, access. Some days the line to get into the park was all the way through town and out the highway leaving town. So the crowds are really a big issue. The other thing is there's no place to shop here really for real food. We have a little market, but to go shopping, we have to travel to Bozeman, which is a 2-hour drive through a very nasty road. So that was a challenge of moving here. And then the other thing is trying to figure out how I was going to sell my artwork. I did a little weekly market for a while. That wasn't really fruitful. And probably the best thing that happened for me this year was I got into a gallery for a couple of weeks at the end of the season and did really well. I was really happy with how that all worked out. So what is there to photograph? The wildlife is, of course, pretty prolific here, but you don't always have to be in the park to find the wildlife. That's one of the things I've learned. So the bear in this picture is a pretty famous bear around here called Snow. Um, she's a beautiful bear. The heron's not in the park. That's outside the park. And then, of course, the mud is shot from within the park. So I was, as summer got crazier and crazier, I thought, there's got to be other things for me to photograph other than bears, wolves, fox, coyotes, that kind of stuff. So I started getting into bird photography. And what I found out is this area that I live in now is just fantastic for bird photography. We're in a flyway, and so we have all these birds that migrate through here all year long. This is a bird I didn't even know existed in our area. It's a white-faced ibis, and that was fairly early in the season. So to photograph some of the waterfowl, I had to go out and think outside the box, because ducks and geese and things like that, things that float on the water, aren't so easy to get close to from the shore. And that you're shooting at something that's way out in the lake. So I went out and bought a kayak, and this is actually my kayak that I purchased. I purchased it because, number one, it's very stable, and I don't worry about dropping my expensive camera in the drink. I have yet to be able to I tried to tip this over and I couldn't tip it over. So I feel very confident having my camera gear in here. And the seat is actually adjustable in height, so I can adjust it up and down. So I've started doing a lot of photography from my kayak. And it gets you a totally different perspective of the animals, because instead of looking from shore out into just blank water, you can then position yourself where you're looking at the birds with a nice backdrop, some, foxtails, or, different reeds or plants or colorful flowers. So it just gives you a little bit different perspective. And I really have gotten kind of hooked on doing birds. I was able to, we have loons that come through here for a very short period of time every year. And they hang out on Ennis Lake, which is about an hour drive for me to get to Ennis Lake. And right after the lake thaws, you can get out and all the waterfowl are there. So I got a lot of waterfowl on Ennis Lake. And we have a whole variety of birds. The one there on the left is a woodpecker that comes into my backyard. Pretty hard to get a good picture of him, but I managed to snap a quick shot of that one. So we get a lot of birds, and because it's early in the season, they're in their beautiful breeding plumage. So the top one up here is an ear-greebed, and then the bottom one is a cinnamon teal. So you get some really pretty birds. The biggest thing I've learned in living here is the park. Now, when I would come here on my own, I would spend all my time in the park. I thought the park was the only place to go and take pictures. What I've learned is I probably only take pictures within the park in those same 2 months that I used to spend here every year. That's about the only time I spend in the park. The rest of my time I spend outside the park. And in the summertime, I don't want anything to do with the park. The crowds are crazy. I went in there one day with some friends, and we stopped at a bear jam, and there had to be 500 people crowded together, and it was just crazy. It's like I sat there and went, you know what? There's other bears to find. So, and I have them walking through my yard, so I don't worry about that. But there's so much more diversity outside of the park here that I didn't ever realize. I'm still completely blown away with the stuff I see. I mean, just in my yard where I live about 9 miles west of town. In my yard on a daily basis, I have moose, I have fox, I have long-tailed weasels, I have pine martens, I have about 20 different kinds of birds that come in my backyard. I have deer. We actually had a mother moose with a baby that raised her baby here in our little neighborhood we live in this summer. So we got to see them all the time. And they were just outside across the street yesterday. So, and that's just my little neighborhood. You start driving around, we've got bighorn sheep, we've got mountain goats, we've got all these other animals that aren't actually in the park, but you have to do a little bit of exploring and you find all this stuff. Great gray owls, grizzly bears are everywhere. They actually are kind of a nuisance at times, but so what I've learned in all this is I don't necessarily concentrate in the park because like right now the park's closed. So I can't even go in the park right now. So I've been out trying to get the bighorn sheep fighting the last few days, and they won't cooperate right now. They're being stubborn. Every time I show up, they stop fighting. So, but you know, we get a lot of different critters. The bear, he was in the park. The mountain goats, they were along the river where I fish. I was actually there fishing, and they walked down to the water, and so I walked up to my car, grabbed my camera, and snapped some pictures of them. Same thing with the sandhill crane. There's a lot of them around here. That's in my neighborhood. So, but you do get the bears, and we get a lot of grizzly bears. And sadly, this grizzly bear is no longer around. This was one of the cubs that they put down this spring because they were getting into trouble in Jackson. But I was fortunate enough to see them before. This is the day that their mother kicked them out on their own, and then they proceeded to go get themselves in a lot of trouble. But you get a lot of bear opportunities here. The other nice thing here is there is no light around here, so we get some fantastic dark skies at night. This Milky Way is actually at Henry's Lake, shooting back over the lake. And I mean, it gets so dark here, especially in the park. I've done a lot of night photography in the park when the few days I've had clear skies. That's been our big problem this year. A lot of clouds. And then fox, and then early in the season, I got the opportunity on 2 different packs of wolves in our area. So that was kind of fun. Of course, you get buffalo. That's another moose that I found over in Island Park. And because there's so much water, there are waterfalls everywhere here. It's pretty amazing how many waterfalls. So some of my future things is I'm going to spend more time exploring. And there's so much here. I'm actually going to do some upgrades to my Jeep next year so I can get into some more crazy areas. I may start doing tours. I haven't worked out all the logistics yet, but I may start doing some tours in the park. And probably the biggest thing going on right now is I've been invited to be in a gallery full-time next year, for the whole season. So the season goes from Memorial Day to the last weekend in September. So hopefully that all works out. We still have some stuff that we have to iron out, but hopefully that's going to take up a lot of my time next summer. So that's about that. Is anybody got any good questions for me? Because I love questions.
Well, we've got a couple in the chat.
Okay.
One is, what is the closest town where you live now?
It's West Yellowstone.
Oh, okay.
So so West Yellowstone is the west entrance to Yellowstone National Park. So from my house to the gate of the park is 10 miles.
Okay.
So But I'm west of town. I'm out kind of more rural area.
Okay, and the other one actually is one I typed into chat so I'd remember it. Did you have any luck with Northern Lights when everything was popping here lately?
I've had 3 nights where the Northern Lights went off here.
Yeah.
One of them I was sick.
Oh,
I tried to go out and there was just no way it was going to happen. And the other 2 times that we've had them, it's been so cloudy you couldn't see them. I
okay.
would have had to drive probably, but we have had them here. We do get them. So I have my little app on my phone waiting for it to go off every day, you know.
I did see some pictures from northern Utah.
Yeah.
This last very big storm or whatever they call it. I did see a few from up there that looked pretty amazing for how far south,
Oh yeah.
you know.
They were overhead though. When I was sick, they were actually overhead. I could see the green outside. I stuck my head out and I'm like, there's no way. I couldn't hardly breathe. And
Doggone it.
oh, I'm like, when my phone went off and said it was a KP7, I'm like, oh, of course. Every time it goes off and, you know, it's a 6 or better. If anything's 6 or better, we have a chance of seeing them.
Yeah.
7 is overhead here. Every time it would do it, I'd walk outside and look and it would be clouds. So someday.
Okay, let's open it up to other questions. Those were the 2 that were in chat, I think.
So how far do you have to go to see like the major large wildlife? You know, like wolves and moose and.
Well, moose, they're all over here.
Okay.
They're in my backyard, literally. I mean, we sit on my wife took videos sitting on our back porch of a mother and baby moose that were probably 50 feet from our back porch. So
Now, I assume bears are pretty prolific too. It's like bison and.
Yeah, we had a bear come through here 4 days ago. Went down, checked out our dumpster, and then wandered off because we have bear proof dumpsters. So we see bears pretty regular. This spring we had them in here about 5 times. We had a black bear hanging around here for, I think he was here for about 3 weeks, hanging out by the cabins, snoozling for food, turning over barbecues, you know. They eventually came in and trapped him and relocated him.
Question back on the Northern Lights. What app are you using to know when the Northern Lights are happening? You know?
Yeah. It's called, I left my phone on the charger upstairs.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, let's do that. Or post it
It's
on the Facebook
it's an iPhone app. And it's not just Northern Lights. It's a ham radio app more than a photographer app, but I'm a ham radio operator too. So, yeah, but we do get bison in the area, although they don't usually get out where we're at because they go down by the lake. But if we drive up the Madison River from the park entrance, that 14 miles, go driving in the park, Bruce, you can see bison, wolves, bears, coyotes.
I assume
elk.
both kind of bears.
Yes, I actually have seen, and I've actually seen all this year. We've had, I've got pictures along the Madison of elk, a moose, a black bear with cubs, a grizzly swam across the river in front of me, bison swimming across the river, you name it. Bison are always a pain. Coyotes all the time. See fox fairly regular. And the other thing you get in the wintertime along the river is bobcats. If you're really lucky, you get to see a bobcat.
Okay.
It's probably it's probably one of the coolest things that we get to see.
Okay. So you see a lot of wolves on that side of the park too, then?
Yeah, actually, let me see if I can find a picture real quick. Hold on, let me.
I know by reputation they're usually over in Lamar Valley or whatever, but that's
You know what? I've seen them in Lamar, but okay, I got to figure out how to stop share for a second. I will show you if I can find it real quick here. A picture that I took along the Madison River, 9 miles into the park. And I did 3 days in a row with this critter back in April. So when they open the park in April, you get, it's limited what gets opened. So here we go. So this wolf, let me see if I can figure out how to do this. There we go. Now I'll share my screen. Close that. Oops. Where'd my okay.
Oh, wow.
So that wolf is 101 yards away. And so what happened is this bison died that it's standing on top of. And we staked out the bison for 5 days or 6 days. And we would go in every morning because they won't let you sit there all night, but we would go in early in the morning and we'd catch it as the sun would come up and it'd hang around for a little while and then it'd disappear. That wolf showed up 3 days in a row, just like clockwork. At about 8 o'clock, it left, but we got it every morning. But this is one of 3 wolves that were actually on that kill. This one's actually 1.5 years old, female.
How do you know that? That it's 1.5 years old.
Because they keep track of every one of the wolves in the park.
Oh, okay. So it's collared.
Before hunting season started, we had 123. We've lost 7 to hunting outside the park this year already. Sadly, all from the northern part of the park. Because Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming all hunt them. So the problem is the wolves leave the park and they're fair game. And so they get picked off pretty easily because they're pretty habituated to people. Sorry. This wolf didn't care about us at all. So I'll show you the other one. I think I had the other ones, the 2 that were in the mist in the presentation. They were also in April.
Okay.
So what happens is in April, they open up the 15th of April, that weekend. But they only opened up a part of the park. And so there's limited access. So there's not a lot of people come then because it's so limited to the areas you can actually get to. So the wolves don't get spooked until there's a lot of people. Large volumes of people, they're out of there. But if you can go in early or late in the season, a lot of times you can get some pretty good encounters with the wolves. So it's pretty fun.
So how do you, I realize the park keep track of them, but how do you identify them? Do you have to have like a ranger standing there to tell you which one's which, or are they tagged, or are they?
Some of them have radio collars and some of them have tags in their ears. But you kind of get to know them. So like this is like I said, 1.5 years old female from the Wapiti Lake pack. And there was 2 other ones, and one of the other 2 was radio collared. So we knew that was where that one came from. And the wapitis, they kind of travel around. So you start seeing these packs and you start associating the different animals within the packs. You start identifying them.
Okay.
And then a lot of people, that's like with this one, we had one of the wolf biologists was there every day, observing this wolf because they're trying to figure out what was going on with her because she was younger. They couldn't figure out why she wasn't hanging out with one of the other groups because in the summertime they start splitting up. The big packs will split up and go out and get food by themselves, and then they'll rejoin up in the wintertime and hunt as a group in the winter. But this one, she had been with the other two that I photographed, so the three of them kind of hung out together for a while, but they don't know if she got kind of pushed out of the pack or what. So the biologist was there every day. But that was her, and then there was a gray, and then a black, and the black was actually collared, so they knew who he was. So they would keep track of him that way.
So is the same true for identifying bears too?
The bears, well, there's two things with bears. The bears will either have an ear tag, and usually you can read it. If you get a good clean picture of them, you can see their number in their ear tag. Luckily, they're only up to like 4 digits, so they're pretty large. So you can pick out what bear it is. But there's some bears that you just kind of like know, like Snow, the bear they call Snow, and then her mother, Raspberry and Jam. They hang out in a very specific area, and we've seen them so much we kind of know who they are. You get to use them because Snow has got a very white coat. And Raspberry's kind of got very distinct markings on her, so you kind of learn who they are by that. People like to name them, but because those bears have never been trapped, they don't have an ear tag. They don't. Not all bears are trapped.
So is there any easy way to there's nothing easy in this world anymore, but is there any easy way to get to Yellowstone in the winter other than having a snowmobile? Can you go there with your own car or?
Yes, you can go. Okay, so the majority of the roads are closed to only over snow travel in the winter, except for the road that goes from Gardner to Cook City. That road from Gardner to Cook City is open year round. They keep it open because people live in Cook City, and there's no other way to get to Cook City in the wintertime because the other way out of Cook City is Beartooth Pass, and there's probably already 15 feet of snow up there, and avalanches, and they don't even attempt to keep that clear. So they have to keep that northern park road open because there's people coming and going every day. I mean, FedEx, UPS go up there every day. The post office goes up there every day. And then all the snowmobilers go through the park and go up there because it's great snowmobile country up there. So they keep that road open, and it's actually a great place to go and photograph wildlife in the winter. There's a lot of stuff going on up in the northern part.
But then for you to get to Gardner, you've got to go all the way around through Bozeman and back down, right?
Yes. Yeah. So when I go up to Gardner in the winter, if I go up there, I go up and I spend the night.
Yeah.
At least one night.
So the road from West Yellowstone to go through the park to the Grand Tetons is closed.
Yes.
Oh.
So for me to go down to the Tetons, I have to go down into Idaho and go down around, and then I come back.
Back up through Jackson?
Yeah, I come up to Jackson and then go in the Tetons that way. Same thing. I go down there and spend the night. Well, I can do the Tetons in a day. It's just a long day.
Long day, yeah.
It's about 3-hour drive from my house to Oxbow Bend that way.
Oh, that's not bad.
No,
Doesn't sound.
I do it all the time. In the summer, it's only a 2-hour drive to Oxbow.
So Jeff, when you go out, are you in the winter time? Do you generally ski, take a snowmobile, and what precautions do you take for your own safety when you're out shooting? You're generally by yourself, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Questions.
Okay, so let me see. I have a pair of snowshoes. I have 3 different pairs of cross-country skis, depending upon where I'm going. I have bear spray. I have a beacon, in reach that I carry if I'm going to be away from my car. But I would say in the wintertime, 80% of the stuff that I do in the winter is either sitting in my car, shooting out the window, or I'm within 30, 40 feet. I don't have to wander very far, because part of the problem is we get a lot of snow here, like 13 feet a season. So it doesn't take very long before you can't walk anywhere anyway,
Right.
unless you have skis or snowshoes.
So this is your second winter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I always carry my beacon with me. But it's kind of amazing. Most of the places I go, I have really good cell service. So, yeah, it's like when I go fishing down on the river, I have cell service. They have great coverage outside the park. So, but we have areas like I go over into Idaho a lot because it's only a mile for me to get into Idaho. So I go over in Henry's Fork of the Snake River, and there's moose in the wintertime there. As a matter of fact, my friend went by there this morning, and the mother and baby moose were out in the river, standing in the river with the fog coming off the river, and they just got some amazing shots this morning. So I kind of kicked myself for not going.
It's good to hear you've made friends.
Oh yeah. It's amazing how many photographers that live here. It really is.
Well, it's kind of like down here. I mean, you talk about the park being so packed and, things like that. Yeah, it's no different than Zion. And I don't think a person realizes that park boundaries are just lines on a map until you live near a national park.
Oh yeah. Well,
You know?
and what's weird is so they say there's only 1,200 full-time residents here. But the reality is like this month, there's probably only 600 people in town, because the park's closed. So there's no employees here. It's just people who live here right now. So like I went into town today and there was like 3 cars on the road.
In West Yellowstone.
Yeah, in West. I had to go to I have to go to the town to go to the post office. They don't deliver mail out here.
Okay.
Everybody gets a free post office box here. It's kind of a neat system. So of course they hate me for all my Amazon
Canadians
packages.
going, yeah, big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, because because the summer people will have mail, they'll do delivery in the summertime. You have to sign up for it. But right now, I mean, we could get to our mail where the mailboxes go in the summer, but in another month they'll be under 5 feet of snow.
So you talked about having to go all the way over to Bozeman for decent groceries.
Yeah.
Is that like where the Costco is, or
Yep.
do you have to go further for that?
No, there's Costco there. There's Wally World.
Okay.
There's Safeway, Albertsons, there's
Okay. So, yeah,
REI,
Bozeman's pretty good. Oh, we got an REI.
Home Depot, Lowe's,
You're pretty well covered then.
So how many
Olive Garden.
how many
Oh, wow.
freezers do you have in your house now, or do you just throw it out the back?
I have a 9 cubic foot freezer down here in the basement. And that's kind of it for us.
Okay.
How long does it take you to get to Bozeman?
It's about, from my house to the Costco, it's 2 hours and 5 minutes. So, but
Definitely plan ahead.
yeah, well, what I do is I have a electric ice chest, and that can go down to 0 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So when I leave the house, I turn the electric ice chest on, turn it down to 0, and I drive down there, and then I can put all my frozen stuff in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a second ice chest that I put all the cold stuff, the refrigerated stuff in. I actually have 2 ice chests. And then I just go down there, and one day a month I go down there and buy all the stuff that I need for a month, and then I come home and put it all away. And milk, stuff like that, I have to buy here in town.
Mhm.
You know, produce and things like that I buy here in town. Just, it's ridiculous. You know, I can't store enough salad stuff to
No,
make it through a
no,
month. So
no, it would go
but
bad.
yeah, so but
You
we
gotta
get a lot
think
of
like
stuff.
the pioneers. You gotta think like the pioneers.
Oh yeah. Like
So-
we buy like hamburger buns and we freeze them, and you know, freeze our bread and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, the Costco's nice, and you know, and I mean, we have everything down there that you could want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. But it is a crazy drive in the wintertime. You don't do that drive if it's storming, because you have to go up into the park on 191, which you're climbing, you go up higher than town, and then you have to drop down into the canyon going past Big Sky, and then you go, it's a windy road along the river all the way down. That's why it's not that far distance wise, it's only 98 miles, but you just can't go fast through there. And in Montana, at least in this area of the state, they don't put anything on the roads to help melt the snow.
Oh,
So snow tires are a must. I just put
Cane.
mine on my Subaru.
Mhm.
And yeah, it gets exciting sometimes.
Oh,
And the
gosh.
town of West Yellowstone doesn't plow the snow off the road. They don't even try. They leave several inches on there, because in the wintertime, the snowmobilers and the snow coaches are
Wow.
driving all over town. So yeah, I watched somebody slide through an intersection today while I was down there. He was going really fast and slammed on his brakes, and right through the intersection he went.
Good thing there was only 3 cars in town.
Yeah, I just kind of laughed. I go, well, he's not from here.
Yeah.
Anybody who lives here knows better.
Well, you obviously don't have a snow machine yet.
No,
Yeah.
I don't have a death wish.
Ah,
No, you've never lived till you've driven a snow machine through West Yellowstone at midnight.
You know what? I've driven a snow machine here. I choose not to have one anymore, because I have there's part of my brain that's not wrapped right. And when I get on a snow machine or an ATV or one of those things, I drive like a complete lunatic. And
That's a prerequisite. It's like, we used to go over there from Jackson in the winter just for fun, drive the snow machine through the park, stop in West Yellowstone, spend the night, then drive back through the park the next day. But it's a prerequisite that you're not right in the head to do that.
oh yeah, you know, I probably could get to town easier in the wintertime on a snow machine than I could in my car some days.
Yeah.
Especially if they shut the highway down. So, okay, I got to tell you this story. So early this season in May, we had this big snowstorm come through. Everybody thinks May is fine to come here. And this is my story about May. We had a foot of really wet, nasty snow around the 20th of May. And I happened to be I had gone to town to meet some friends that were here, and they were leaving that day. And so I helped them I took some snow shovels over, and we shoveled out their RV and got them on the road. And so I stopped at the store and bought ice cream because we were out of ice cream. It's a critical problem. And I'm headed home, and it's snowing. And I get about halfway home, and the road just shuts down. And I'm like, dang it. So I'm sitting there. I'm going, man, my ice cream's going to melt. So I set the ice cream outside because it's cold outside. So it won't melt as fast. Set it on the roof. And then I sat there a little while longer. I'm going, this is ridiculous. Well, what I didn't know is they had 17 accidents
Oh, wow.
on the road past my house. And they'd shut the road down right at my driveway going into our development. So I finally called dispatch and said, how long is this going to be? And they says, well, it's going to be quite a while. They only got 2 wreckers and all these accidents. And I says, well, is the road clear to Fisherman's Village? And that's where I live. She goes, oh yeah. I says, well, are they letting cars come from the opposite way? She goes, oh no, that's all shut down. I says, well, can I follow one of these wreckers? She goes, well, I'll call the chief and make sure. And so she called the chief, and he said, yeah, just follow a wrecker up. And so I got in behind a wrecker and I followed the wrecker all the way up the highway, passing hundreds of cars,
Wow.
and got up there, and the chief waved and I pulled in and I was good to go. And my ice cream was just a little melted. But that's one of our problems here is you can be in town and all of a sudden the road's closed and you're stuck in town. You're not getting home. So I actually have some people that I can go and stay with if I ever get stuck up there. But I would have never guessed in May that that would happen. But it was a whole day before they opened the road back up. But the record is they 3 years ago, or it'll be 4 winters ago, the road was closed for 4 days.
In May.
No, that was in the winter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
From storms.
Okay. So
It is-
getting back to photography, what are you
Okay.
shooting nowadays?
I shoot Canon R5. which
Okay, is that a DSLR or is that a
No,
mirrorless?
it's mirrorless.
Mirrorless, okay.
I'm mirrorless now. I
Okay,
sold all that other stuff and I went mirrorless.
okay.
I have 1635, 24 105, 100 to 500, a 600 f4, 800 f11, and that's it.
That's plenty. That's plenty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
Now,
I
when
would
you-
say that the reason I went to mirrorless was the weight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So when you head out in the kayak, do you just put one lens on and float out there, or do you take extra lenses? What's your strategy when you head out like that?
Depends on where I'm going. If I'm over here on the lake by my house,
Mhm.
Hebgen, I'll take my 100 500 because the birds won't be as far away.
Right.
If I go down to Ennis and float down there, I take 2 bodies and then I put the 100 500 on, and then I put the 800 f11 on.
So you have
which is-
2 of the same bodies?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
And that little f11 lens is pretty amazing.
That's f11 800 millimeter?
Yeah, it's a fixed aperture. So there is no aperture control. It's just an f11.
Yeah.
So you have to make other adjustments to make it work. So, and it's compact. Well, here, I can grab it. Hold on a second. Okay, so that's the lens. Let's see if I can get it here.
Well, that
Yeah.
looks pretty hefty.
But not as hefty as I would thought it was going to be with an 800 millimeter.
It weighs about a little over a pound. It weighs nothing.
That's nothing.
But what's cool is that this is compressed, and then you pull it out, so this part comes in and out. So you have to have it all the way out for it to work. But when you're traveling, you have it pushed in.
What brand is that?
It's a Canon.
Okay.
It's for the Canon mirrorless.
It's not a reflex lens or,
No, but they came up with this. This is less than $1,000 for an 800 millimeter.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And I think of what I
Um,
pay for those Sony lenses, my goodness.
They have this 800, and then they have a 600, the same thing, fixed aperture, and amazingly sharp.
Jeff, did you say that those lenses were made specifically for the mirrorless camera?
Yes, they are
Okay.
what they call the RF mount.
Okay.
So
So
Canon,
you don't need adapters or anything like
Nope.
that for it.
no, none of my lenses are, I have all RF mount lenses now. I sold all my EF stuff and slowly over the last couple of years have converted all over.
Yeah.
But I bought this as kind of I want to try it out and actually love this stupid lens. The only drawback to it is it has a minimum focusing distance of 21 feet. So sometimes the birds get too close.
Gee, what a problem.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, in my backyard, I use
Yeah,
them all the time.
yeah, there would be a problem in the backyard.
Yeah, because my deck's only 22 feet long, so I can't get them to stand up exactly at the other end of the deck. But the 100 500 works good too. But I have a print. I don't have it down here. I have a print that I took of a wolf, and I shot it with that lens, and you can see the whiskers on the wolf.
Wow.
Wow, that's
I shot it out of my car. So really for a cheap lens, it's super sharp and light. So I can throw that and my other lens and throw them in the kayak, and
Off you go.
I can hand hold it easily. I don't have to have a big tripod like with the 600. My 600, you got to have a tripod to hang onto the thing for any amount of time.
Mhm.
So, but
I take it that lens doesn't have stabilization inside it.
this one,
Yeah,
oh yeah, it does.
really? I thought it would be bigger and heavier for that. But
Nope. Yep.
Guess Canon's figured it out.
Yep. Matter of fact, I should probably leave it on. Yeah. So it's stabilized. I mean, it's all plastic, but like I said,
but it
until
works.
I tell everybody, I had a bunch of friends come out and they all had bought the R5s, and they came out in May. And so I says, well, you guys got to try this lens. You're going to be, and so they all tried it. They all went home and bought one.
Well, Canon's like going, why do we have this? We need to talk to this man. He's like sending all his friends here.
Oh, I sold so much. I should have a camera store
He
at
should
this
be
point.
a Canon ambassador or whatever
Yeah.
Canon calls them.
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, they
Good for
have
them.
the camera store here in town has one of my pictures. And when people ask about this lens, I have a 8x10 that I gave them, and they just show the people and say, well, this was taken with this lens. And then people are like, okay.
you have a
So-
camera store?
Yeah, wait a
Yeah.
minute. You have a camera? Is that Lynn? Is there a Balmer? Last name is Balmer?
Yes, Chris Bomber.
Chris, that's it. Yeah.
He has Yellowstone camera, and then he has another store down in Idaho Falls.
That's it. Yep. Yeah.
So
So does he do that store just seasonally?
yeah, he closed down in September. So
Yeah. Okay.
I've been giving him a hard time about why isn't the store open? I need something.
I follow him on Facebook. That's
Oh,
why.
do ya?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he just got a hold of the new Z9 the other day. I don't know if you saw that, but he had the Z9 for a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop the recording, but that doesn't
Okay.
mean we can't keep talking.
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna stop it.
Jeff, I'd be curious,